What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. In this video, I wanted to talk about something that is kind of a serious topic to me. it's we want, and the thing is it kind of still, funny enough, even goes along with these, kind of same shit, different day thing kind of thing. Same shit, different month, same shit, different year, different decade. It seems like to be the same thing that we keep fighting, or that people have been fighting for and against, and fighting about for decades. And that is the Second Amendment and gun rights, gun control. So I want to talk about this because, again, we have a pretty big news, worthy in the news about a shooting the other day in Minneapolis, where 2 kids died. And while this is something that happens way more frequently than it should, way more frequently than we hear about, it's something that I can't quite, and we've talked about gun control before. So I think everybody, if you've been paying attention, you know my stance on guns. But I wanted to talk about this for a little bit because it's like, again, whenever we feel like we are moving steps forward in trying to improve things, make things better, there are those that somehow gain the ability to pull us back. And while this shooting doesn't necessarily isn't direct correlation with that, but the point still is there that we have a problem. And if you're not looking at our country and the things that are going on in it, and right now, I mean, strictly around guns and gun safety, gun control, gun rights, all these different things. The way guns exist in the United States, and it's very unique. It really is. Because if you go to most other, major countries in the world, there are strict gun laws. And they just don't have these problems. They don't have these unique problems where we have, the worry of our kids in schools and a shooting happening, having to, them wearing specific book bags or having certain securities or something, metal detectors or all these different things for the schools, all in protection of the potential for a gun to get on campus and an incident happening. And I think the whole point, the whole idea of gun rights in the Second Amendment, for starters, is completely misunderstood today, especially from the original point. It's been completely taken away, and it's now become a more like modern day personal thing that is outside of what it originally was for. And then, of course, those who want to advocate for it just throw up, oh, this is my Second Amendment. It's my Second Amendment right. When they don't honestly actually understand what the Second Amendment means or what it was for in the context that it was at that time, and how that context doesn't really exist now. And even if you wanted to argue that we could still like concoct a way for that context to exist in today's society, the imbalance is just ridiculous. And does not equate to wouldn't equate to the original purpose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly try to kind of go over the ideas behind it originally, and then put it in the context of today. We're going to talk about the event that happened the other day, and then I'm going to try to get you to understand, particularly those of you who want to defend and want to say that, this is not a gun problem, this is a people problem. And while, yes, there is a way to argue that, but that's not the whole picture. And when you try to just one-side it, or, say that one thing is the problem, or one thing is not the problem, you're completely missing the point. So, the historical context of the Second Amendment, all right. What we have, okay, in the 1780s, all right, the American Revolutionary War was fought largely with citizen militias, okay, and many founders distrusted permanent standing armies. Armies. Why did I say armies? Armies, which they associated with tyranny, like the Brits, redcoats and stuff. So the idea was that a well-armed population organized into state militias would prevent defense and act as a check against federal military power. So the idea originally was that the states you had your local populace formed or could form as a militia, as a group, as a sort of a paramilitary kind of thing to thwart the idea of a federal military power coming in and just like taking away rights or taking over anything, or like, so, and this was in whether or not it was the Brits or the U.S. or whatever, like the idea was to be able to, that states, the population had a means of going against any type of federal military group. So under the Constitution in 1787, control of militias shifted partly to the new federal government. States feared losing their ability to defend themselves, so the Bill of Rights included protections to maintain state militias. This was all, the idea here. Even though there was a push for federal militias to just kind of partly be a part of the federal government, the idea or the control over the militias, anyways. The Bill of Rights allowed for states to maintain protections under like local people, militias, and whatnot. On the frontier, firearms were also crucial for hunting and self-defense, but unlike today, where the argument is oftentimes, "Oh, well, I just have my guns because I got hunting to do, and I won't be able to defend myself against somebody coming to my house." That was not the argument for the original idea behind the right of bearing arms. it was kind of just a secondary thing. The founders understood this, but the political debate was mostly about militias and government power. So, but you have to understand, in the 1780s, and 1790s, and 1700s, everybody was equal footing on what type of access to weaponry you had. Everybody was, rifles, muskets, maybe shotguns. Everybody was on the same. Even your federal military did not really have anything that your local people didn't have. Everybody was on the same foot, and so the idea was if a federal military, any type of federal military, whether it was U.S., British, whatever, came in, could be met by equal footing by the populace there in any kind of local location. The only thing that would outnumber is literally numbers, bodies, and the fact that they would have more weaponry, depending upon populace versus the size of the military. That's the only thing that could really outdo that. But today's world, that's completely out of realm. Because for one, you don't, even if you were in the argument that it should be equal, I would argue that our federal governments don't need to have the power that they have. Yet the ones who want to defend the Second Amendment argue for more and more and more and more government power, more and more government military might. That's funny. But also, you don't want regular people having access to those type of military powers, to large missiles and tanks and bombs and everything. Like this, just not feasible. So any type of argument, any kind of defense argument for a regular person, is out the window around the idea of the right to bear arms and the Second Amendment. Even if you understand the idea behind the militia side of that Second Amendment and the right to bear arms in the Bill of Rights, you must understand that even a militia could not in any possible way be able to defend any local area against our federal military. It's just not remotely close. Even your own arguments about our military power, and that we are the strongest military in the world, and when it doesn't matter if it's Russia or if it's China or if it's whatever, we will blow you to smithereens. Even if that is your take, what Russia and China and all these other countries have in military might. You don't have that might. So for you to even think that could be that you could defend yourself against the potential for our own government to come against us, that doesn't equal. It doesn't make any sense. That's not even reality. But if you're talking about just so I want to defend myself against just another person. I want to defend me against John Doe down the road that might want to come into my house and steal something. Okay. Fine. But you don't need a fully automatic or even a semi-automatic rifle, machine gun rifle or anything for that. It's not. Sure, a handgun, fine. A single shot rifle, or whatever. Like, okay, even a shotgun, okay. But in my opinion, any type of gun on a personal level, especially at this point, you can't argue this is against the federal military anymore, which is what the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment was actually about. And you're just talking about your own personal, like local person, that's all you need, or you would potentially need. And if that's all they had access to, then you will have a problem. So if we had things enacted that would protect and prevent, that would ban certain things, then you're less likely to come across those things or to have somebody come at you with those things. I understand there's still like under the table black market kind of shit or whatever, but you also would have active like laws and active investigative like agencies constantly trying to find and search for those kinds of things to even thwart that possibility, to fish them out and try to do something about it. So, I mean, that's the reason why I would say there's argument for more protections than to just be passive and like just let everybody get what the fuck they want or have whatever they want. In 1791, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Militia clause, well-regulated militia suggests the right is tied to collective defense through state militias. The right of the people clause suggests an individual right by the context of ensuring those militias could be armed. So there, I mean, it was just solely about the idea of a state having its freedom of militias and for the people, individual people to bear arms, ensuring those militias to protect themselves from any kind of federal military like overreach. Even the founders, James Madison, envisioned an army citizenry as a deterrent to federal overreach. Militias of the people could oppose a standing army if necessary. George Mason, calling the militia the whole people except for a few public officials. This shows the militia is not a small professional group, but the broader citizen body. Patrick Henry argued that disarming the people would lead to tyranny, linking individual ownership to collective defense. But that was of that time when everybody was on equal footing. Now, and like I said, in relation to local, public versus any type of federal overreach. But now, if the federal, the wide range, the wide spectrum of military might versus any type of personal might, if the federal government decided they wanted to overreach, you couldn't do shit about it. It don't matter how many fucking guns you have. You couldn't do shit about it. I mean, yeah, you could have 100 guns in your house and you can make a stand, but you're only one person, or what couple of people you might have in your home. It doesn't matter. Military might is way, way bigger. So that argument doesn't stand. In the 19th century, your militias declined and were replaced by the National Guard. Gun ownership became more about personal defense, hunting, and culture. In the 20th century, 1939 U.S. versus Miller, courts read the Second Amendment mainly in terms of militia service. But in the 21st century, 2008 District of Columbia versus Heller, Supreme Court recognized an individual right to possess firearms for self-defense, even outside militia service, which was a major reinterpretation of the original framework. Now, so now we have the intent of the original idea. So now we're looking at today. That's not anything to do with that original intent. So even to argue I have a Second Amendment right doesn't actually line up. Because that's not what the Second Amendment necessarily meant. Now when we look at thinking about gun access in the United States, thinking about gun control, and the argument that more guns means more safety, which is what your Republicans mostly argue. We need more guns in good hands. That way, guns in bad hands can, it equals out. No statistic ever has stated that more guns are better. Look at all the other countries in the world that manage their gun violence with gun restrictions and gun laws, and they have fractions of the amount of gun homicides or even suicides for that matter than the United States. The United States stands out uniquely, way, ridiculously. It's not even close in difference to other developed countries. Why? Because of our lackluster pride Second Amendment for everybody to have access to guns, which was been pushed and held in place by Republicans for decades. Even when more progressive, more liberal or progressive and guns rights individuals try to press upon our government and our society to have better protections, it's always pushed back on because of that American pride for the Second Amendment. And you have, Trump now calling on National Guard for these cities and stuff, arguing that he's doing it for these blue cities that are out of control with gun violence, when actually gun violence has been reducing the past few years in many cities. But gun violence overall is actually the highest gun violence states are Republican states. Your lowest gun violence states are more your Democratic states. Now, when it comes to just gun violence, period, homicides and suicides, crazy enough, the number one state with the highest per capita per 100,000 people is my own home state of Mississippi. My own home state. With I think it was 28,000, something like that, per 100,000. Now, a lot of that was suicides. But when you're looking solely at, and then the next was like Louisiana and then Alabama, is all southern states. But when you look at homicide rate, we're talking about here with homicides, the violence of guns towards other people. Now, we have an issue with suicides, but that is a problem because in the United States, on average now, suicides are higher than homicides in gun violence. There are more people killing themselves with guns than killing other people with guns, by guns. That is a problem. That is a mental health issue. But it's still tied to the access of guns. Now, on homicide rate, Mississippi doesn't get number one. DC actually gets number one. But Mississippi gets number two when it comes to homicides. That's right. Good old Mississippi here. Republican-led, and been Republican-led for quite a few years now. Good old Mississippi. A hospitality state. We are number two in the highest per capita, 17.6 per 100,000 people. Number 3, Louisiana. Number 4, Alabama. Number 5, New Mexico. Number 6, Missouri. Number 7, Arkansas. Number 8, Tennessee. Number 9, South Carolina. Number 10, Alaska. Pretty much all of those are Republican-led states. New Mexico's kind of center of the, kind of midway there. Alaska's kind of midway there. The bottom 10 with the best homicide rates: number 1, Hawaii. Number 2, Massachusetts. Number 3, Utah. Number 4, Idaho. Number 5, Nebraska. You got a few Republican-led states there. Number 6, Rhode Island. Number 7, New Jersey. Number 8, Vermont. Number 9, New York. Number 10, Connecticut. And when you break down and look at like, well, okay, what laws protect, all protectionary laws, whether we're talking about extreme risk protections like red flag stuff, or we're talking about waiting periods for our firearm purchases, permit stuff, whatever, like the restrictions, all of those bring down, all states who adopt those type of protectionary laws, their homicide rates and suicide rates lower. They drop. But states, and most of those states are blue or, Democratic-led, liberal-led states that put those in place. Your states that go more on permitless, constitutional carry kind of laws, or permit to purchase kind of laws, stand your ground laws, and things like that are mostly in your Republican states, where there's relaxed laws on purchasing firearms and, all this kind of stuff. And those states have higher homicide and suicide rates, are the states that implement those types of laws. Why? Because there's more access, more leniency on carrying more leniency on, background checks or anything like that. Or none. I mean, these. So there's no protection areas for people purchasing stuff. It's just people getting access to it willy-nilly, however they want to, don't care. They have a right to it. It doesn't matter if there's a problem with that person, if that person has a mental health issue or they are, homicidal in themselves or whatever, just bad people. We don't care. They have a right, so they should have a gun. No, that's not how that should work. And that's the point of putting protections in place, putting red flag stuff, in place to protect, look for people, look at their background, see if they have a potential for, suicidal tendencies or the potential for violence or whatever. Having waiting periods where you can't just get a gun same day or even within a couple of days or a couple of hours or what. Like, it takes multiple days for them to do a full check on everything. Because right now we have a major issue with, even if you want to argue that it's not guns, the guns don't kill people. People kill people with guns. But if those people didn't have access to the guns so easily, then the easy logic there, if you can't get a hold of a gun, you can't use a gun. And you should be trying to protect people, society at large, from those who are more likely to use a gun violently. That's the point in the protectionary measures. And it just amazes me at the mindset that people in conservative Republicans bubbles or communities, even in my local area communities, who think that it's just that guns are so cool and that it's just so, and they just have so much of an easy right to them. I mean, we have local private schools who auction. These are private schools, K through 12th grade, that do auctions for guns as a school fundraiser. They auction off guns. That is something that I just think is absolutely wrong on so many levels. And shouldn't even be allowed. And you wonder why we have a gun violence issue in America. So the other day, kids at a religious school at that, having like their introduction, they just started school, it's like their second day of school. And shots ring from an individual outside the building through the glass. Semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, pistol. 2 children die. Multiple children injured. I think around 17. plus 2 older people. One kid was shot in the belly, shot in the stomach. And after surgery, he seems to be okay. But this was from an individual who previously went to this school. They were 22, 23. Clearly had mental health issues, but still was able to maintain access somehow, legally, supposedly, reportedly, to these guns. And this is in a state that actually does have protections. As you see, even under protections, there's still a threat. But studies have shown over and over again that it's less and less of a threat. Well, why isn't this a more bigger concern? That we are living in a country where our kids have to fear. Those kids will never be the same. They thought that they were fully protected. They thought they were fully protected. They're in a state that has protections, although somehow it still failed in this instance. Because nothing's perfect. They're in a religious school at that, where they think that they have protection not only from the people around them, but even from potentially a higher being. But that didn't protect those injured or those killed, did it? And this is something that we see over and over and over and over again in this country. And this is, again, I state, unique to the United States. It doesn't happen like that in other countries. If you can't clearly see that the problem is the easeability of access, the fact that there are so many guns out there, so many guns with the ability to do damage quickly at that. And that this puts society as a whole in danger. I don't understand. I don't know how to explain to you how to get you to understand that that's a problem. And that just continuing to do the same shit over and over and expecting a different outcome. What is that? It's time for us to do something different. It's time for us to actually start putting things in place, protectionary things nationwide. Banning against, in my opinion, any type of automatic weapon, whether it's full, semi, whatever. Ban against any type of multi-round weapon. You should not be able to like drop 20, 30 rounds of bullets in seconds or more. It doesn't really take but one to kill somebody. But instead, we have an administration currently in place after, you can say what you want about Biden, and I've got plenty of things to say bad about him. But under the Biden administration, they were putting things that they were establishing some executive orders and establishing a couple of things that put protections in place. They were trying to push for more protectionary measures. And this administration comes in and completely just erases all that. And even right now, after sicking the National Guard on the D.C. area and federally trying to take over the D.C. area, they're allowing for free open carrying within the D.C. area with no charges or anything against that. Like, if you're caught freely carrying a weapon, you won't be charged by that. Now, what do you think that tells people? That tells people in all these, right-wing militia groups that are out there now that we know of, that, hey, it's okay if you come to D.C. to protect me, protect your supreme leader. Even if you're carrying wide open, there's nothing going to be done to you. Because that's going to keep violent things from happening here. If they see you walking around with the potential to be violent. What? It's the beginnings of the idea behind the police state kind of thing. But it goes even further in more of this personal militia-like group state where we'll protect our area by walking around, like our police officers aren't enough. We need regular populous individuals able to walk around freely with machine gun-like weapons out in the open, and that's going to prevent people from dying. That's going to prevent people from committing violence. Do we not remember the Wild Wild West? I grew up watching Westerns with my grandfather a lot. People carried freely back then, right? But there was still what you would call gangs, violent people, and they just get in shootouts and the people die all willy-nilly. Is that what we really want? We want to go back to the Western style, we all holding our revolvers and have our little gun belts on, doing shootouts in the street. society is always supposed to better itself and find ways to better itself, create rules and regulations, and the idea of is like a controlled society that has the means of bettering itself, of protecting itself, of doing better for itself, promoting positivity and like the livelihood and survival of a community or itself. And for me, just having weapons in everybody's hands, or the potential for weapons in everybody's hands, just creates a type of concern and tension and fear of each other and what each other could do to each other that doesn't really mind for a society trying to better itself. And then you stack on top of that, because we're mostly talking about homicidal type of actions. You stack on top of that the economic woes and health industry woes on people, and with depression, anxiety, and financial, distress, and everything that goes into any one potential person having a mental break or any type of mental negativity. Stack on top of that for your suicidal rates and things like that. Like I said before, you have a country now with more suicides by gun than even homicides. People are killing themselves more than they're killing other people. It's like 8 million or something. No, I don't think it's that many. Something like that. Anyway, it's like whatever it is, 48% to 44% or something like, I don't know, something like that. But it's like people if we were more concerned about mental health, helping people out, getting them out of ruts, if we were living in a society that cared about people and actually uplifting the society, if we had a government that cared about uplifting the society, putting them in better economic means, better health care, better access to food and water, clean water, better workloads and stuff like work practices, hours, to create, a better like physical, mental balance in our lives, and all these different things, and stopped focusing and worrying about whether or not we all have guns in our hands. I don't know. I feel like that would be a better society. I feel like that would be a government that reflects a better influence and like something to be proud of. Anyway, this is a long video, but I just wanted to continue talking and to really talk about this on a more like just we shouldn't have to live in fear of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I feel like it's getting more and more like that. The more you push for easing of weapon regulations and restrictions and all this kind of stuff and being more passive, then you just put the society and the community around you, society at large, in a position where they have to be more feared for being simply at the wrong place at the wrong time. Let me know what you think. I'm sorry for this being a really long video, but I feel like it's an important issue, and it really bothers me to constantly see this kind of thing. You know, to see my son or my children having to have, like, you know, drills and stuff at school for school like. It just seems crazy to me. It just seems crazy to me. That shouldn't be a thing. No matter how much you might like your weapons, that shouldn't be a thing. Anyways, thank you very much for joining me, and let me know what you think. Let me know your ideas, how you feel about anything around this issue. And let's talk about it. Till next time, peace, clear talk with love. I'm out.